One of the most anticipated animes of all time has arrived. The series premiere has received high credentials from fans and critics alike. A 9.2 on IMDb, a 9 on IGN, a 9 on GameSpot, and as of recording, ranks as the 13th best anime ever on my anime list. By the way, I'm only using this as reference. I'm not saying that these sites should be used to judge whether a show is good or not, because it really shouldn't, but it seems to be that the general consensus is the first episode was a success. And I'm glad. Chainsaw Man is not only one of my favorite mangas, but it's one of my favorite stories I've ever read. And I really wanted to start making videos, and I really like Chainsaw Man, so welcome to episode 1. This video has no spoilers beyond episode 1 of the anime and chapter 1 of the manga. Be sure to support the official release. The protagonist of Chainsaw Man is Denji, and his story is one of friendships and relationships, freedoms and enchainment, devils, and a lot of spilled guts and blood. The anime is based on the original Chainsaw Man manga. It was created, written, and illustrated by Tatsuki Fujimoto, who also created the manga series Fire Punch, and several one-shots such as Look Back and Sayonara Eri. The name of the episode is called Dog and Chainsaw, which is also the name of the first chapter in the manga. In the first chapter of the original manga, the first page we see has Denji walking with Pochita discussing his financial disarray. However, in the anime, it starts off with someone walking through a dark and unkept alleyway. Their breath and heartbeat begin to quicken, and we hear an eerily sharp sound beginning to rise as they reach towards the door. It's no secret that the mangaka Tatsuki Fujimoto is a huge horror movie buff. At the beginning of most manga volume covers, mangakas usually write a short update or a message to their readers. However, in his manga volumes, Fujimoto tends to shout out his favorite films, and more often than not, those are horror films. Some of the movies he shouted out have been the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Get Out, and Coraline. So it's no surprise that the anime begins with a scene that looks like it's straight out of a horror movie. Denji then wakes up from his dream, and we get some shots of the old and decrepit shed he lives in. And then we get the first scene that appears in the manga. Denji states the body parts which he has sold to help pay off his debt. A body part that he mentions is one of his testes, which one could believe that this is a play on the phrase, I would give my left nut for blank. This and this conversation and the shots of the decrepit shed and the shots of the paper with his financial problems is just showing us how dire Denji's need for money is. We also see him fake eating a cigarette later in the episode, so that helps as well. Denji also says that he sold it for 100,000 yen, which I think is $1,000. I don't know. I don't know if that was the best decision in the world, but you know, you do what you gotta do. Pochita's hair then spikes up, and Denji says the best way to making money is killing devils, which we assume is probably the most dangerous way of making it as well. Also, this devil looks like it was ripped straight out of Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, I could probably talk about all the movie references and Easter eggs in the opening, but that probably deserves its own video. I want this to be about episode 1. Just so you know though, I love it and I think it's so good, so look forward to that video. When we return, we see that Denji, using Pochita as a weapon, has defeated the devil off screen. The devil he defeats is called the Tomato Devil. We don't have too much info on this type, except for what is said. The Tomato Devil revives from its seeds. And that's really it. We don't have too much info about this old dude either. His name in the credits is Debt Collector Yakuza, which is pretty on the nose. The debt collector states that he'll sell the carcass on the black market for 400,000 yen, which, stated earlier in the episode, is roughly around 4 of Denji's testicles. And yes, I'm going to continue to use this as a measuring stick. However, Denji's happiness is short-lived when the collector explains that he has to pay interest, fees, and other various costs, leaving him with about 70,000. And that doesn't even count the bills that Denji has to pay. So he's left with a measly 1,800 yen, which is $12.
Ooh, That's kind of small.
This all amounts to Denji either being sympathetic or an extremely relatable character for many of the viewers. It feels like Denji is in that state of his life where he has almost no money for himself, with all the bills, debts, taxes, and necessities to live that eat up all that money. In the next scene, the Yakuza is shown talking about Denji's loyalty. The old debt collector from earlier says, "Besides, the best thing about Denji is he does what he's told." Then one of the other Yakuza members calls him a dog before bidding him to eat a cigarette. One of the main themes in this episode is the complexity of obedience. Many of the characters this episode are obedient to something or someone. Denji is obedient to the Yakuza so he can pay off his debt. Pochita is obedient to Denji because he saved his life. And the Yakuza is obedient to the zombie devil for the promise of power. However, these mixes of fidelity contrast one another. While Denji's obedience towards the Yakuza is out of necessity to live, Denji's and Pochita's obedience to one another is one of love and friendship. The Yakuza's obedience towards the zombie devil turns them into puppets. It ends their life, whereas Pochita's and Denji's dedication to one another saves Denji's life. The Yakuza treated Denji like a dog, whereas Denji treated Pochita like he was a close friend or a family member. As cheesy as it is to say, bonds that are created by love and friendship will always beat out bonds that are created by fear or necessity. There is one other character that plays towards this theme, but we'll talk about them at the end. Did anybody else think that this was a butt? Because I definitely did. Later in the episode, Denji declares what his highest priority is: getting a girlfriend. Denji saying, is actually fairly important to his character, and it begs the question, how far is Denji willing to go to achieve this goal? Although that is his biggest dream, he goes into more detail about what his perfect life would be. He talks about feeding Pochita good food while playing video games with his girlfriend, so he still really cares about Pochita and his financial situation. But all of this dreaming comes to a halt when later in the scene, Denji coughs up blood. He mentions his mom died from coughing up blood, so not only does he have to pay off his insurmountable debt to even try to reach his dreams, but he also has to do it on borrowed time. In between this dialogue, there is a flashback showing how Denji got into this situation. It shows his father's funeral, the ruthlessness of the Yakuza, Denji and Pochita's blood pact, and the first devil they killed. When Denji wakes up, he says, "Too hungry to sleep. When I can't sleep, I think about money. Then it's even harder to sleep." This cycle that Denji is living in is vicious. Without money, he can't buy food. Without food, he can't sleep. And without sleep, he can't dream. On the car ride to the warehouse, Denji says, "Wish they'd at least let me dream." Denji has had to kill so many devils and lose so many body parts and pay for so many things that he isn't even allowed to think about dreaming. There's no end in sight for him in this life. He can't even think about a better life without his real life dragging him back down to his reality. In the warehouse, Denji and Pochita get literally stabbed in the back. The Yakuza, in an effort to gain more power, have taken a rather lopsided deal with the zombie devil. There isn't much else to say about the zombie devil other than he turns people into zombies and he hates devil hunters. But Denji isn't really a devil hunter. Earlier in the episode, the Yakuza debt collector insinuates that Denji isn't the real deal. He's more of a makeshift one. He doesn't have any grand powers to fight devils with. He runs away from the zombies in what looks like a chase scene that could be in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean like the good Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know what I mean. Denji gets caught and chopped and realizes that he will die without ever achieving his dream. He thinks, all I want is a normal life, and I can't even have that. We jump to a shot of the full moon coming out of the clouds. Maybe a small nod to how in horror movies werewolves transform and become reborn under a full moon. In the trash, Denji's severed head drops blood into Pochita's mouth, and since Pochita is a devil, human blood revives him. We then get my favorite scene of the episode. Pochita remembers Denji's selflessness. Denji wants Pochita to have his body when he dies, so that Pochita can live a normal life, the life that Denji wanted to live. Pochita kind of does this, but in a special way that revives Denji. He gives Denji his heart, allowing him to be reborn. Pochita talks for the first time and says, Here's the deal. I'll give you my heart, and in exchange, I want you to show me your dream. Denji is reborn. He sees Pachida's tail on his chest and realizes that Pachida sacrificed their life for him. He looks up at the lifeless Yakuza zombies who were so blinded by their need for more power it ended them. Denji fears that he is the same, that maybe his happiness with Pachida should have been enough. We see a shot of him playing with Pachida, then we get a shot of him all alone, looking out into the city in the same area Pachida remembered his selflessness. But no. Everyone dreams of a better life, no matter how rich or poor or sad or happy. He doesn't blame them for wanting more, but he does blame them for the terrible things they did to him. We see his father hanging himself, the debt collector, his father's grave, his debt, his broken and run-down shack, the cigarette, the bread, the zombie devil, Pachida, 100 yen, and then he utters what I've always thought to be one of the coolest lines in manga and anime. The zombies pile on Denji, and we hear a faint chainsaw sound continuing to rise. The Chainsaw Man slashes out of the zombie horde and appears. He has 3 chainsaws, 1 for each arm and 1 on his head. His teeth are as sharp as blades, and we get a close-up of his bright yellow eyes. The animation studio for Chainsaw Man, Mappa, has been known to use 3D CGI in the past, most notably on Attack on Titan and Jujutsu Kaisen, and in all honesty, I think it looks great. However, I think this scene misses some of the most iconic manga panels in history, such as this one, or this one, which I think is a bit of a shame. I would have really liked to seen those more prominently shown since they are so iconic, especially since we've gotten shots straight out of the manga like this and this. But that's just my preference. One of my favorite parts of the fight is when Denji slices and rides up one of the zombie devil's little entrail tentacles. It reminds me of how Levi would Beyblade across Titans in Attack on Titan. I thought it was really cool. Denji kills the zombie devil by cutting it in half. He looks around at the Yakuza zombies and says, "Well, you hired me to be a devil hunter, so I better kill all the devils." The Chainsaw Man laughs maniacally and is seemingly enjoying himself while killing all of these devils. The camera begins to slowly pan away. The next few shots we get are so picturesque and beautiful and kind of ominous. We get a shot of the sun rising on the forest and warehouse. We also get a shot of a leaky hose dropping some water into a puddle. I'm trying to figure out if this means anything. Let me know in the comments if you think this means anything. Maybe I'm just looking too far into this. Maybe I'm going crazy. Anyway, a car drives up to the warehouse. Out of the car is 2 people in black coats, 2 in hats, and 1 with braided red hair. They enter the warehouse and see blood and dead bodies covering the floor. In the back of the room, the Chainsaw Man is cowering in the dark, like a hurt puppy. One of the men assumed that Denji is a devil, saying that 1 more is left. The girl walks up to Denji and tries to talk to him. She seems to be accustomed to this sort of situation. As Denji falls, he asks her to hug him, which she does without hesitation. Denji then reverts back to his human form. Immediately we see his right eye has been healed thanks to his devil powers. Yeah, let's also hope he got his testicle back. The girl states that he is human. She also said he had a weird smell that was neither human nor devil, so Denji in his Chainsaw Man form is a weird hybrid of the two. She then gives Denji an ultimatum. She can kill him as a devil or keep him as a human. She promises him that if she keeps him, he will be well fed. After she says what's for breakfast, Denji's eyes light up and he says, "That sounds awesome." Remember earlier in the video when I talked about the other character that had ties with the obedience theme? Yeah, it's her. I'm sure you already guessed that, but notice some of the words she says here. I can keep you. If I keep you, you'll be fed. The word keep is more used towards pets or possessions. However, she is offering him a better way of life. Maybe she is using the word keep because giving him too much free will would be a danger to society. She did say she was a devil hunter with public safety. But we'll have to see what kind of bond Denji forms with this girl. Will it be one of necessity, like his bond with the Yakuza? Or will it be one of love and friendship, like his bond with Pachida? Only time will tell. I thought the episode was great. It was a really good way to start the series. If I'm being super nitpicky, like what we talked about earlier, I would have liked if the fight scene with the zombie devil stayed a little bit more faithful to the manga. I just really would have loved to see those close-up, visceral panels come to life in animation. I also think there was a lot more blood and dirt in the manga. There is no empty spaces in those pages because they are so filled to the brim with blood and dirt. It's awesome. However, the majority of the episode stayed immensely faithful to the source material, and the fight scene was still really good. What I also really liked is how some of the scenes took its time with shots of the locations around it. It made it feel more ominous and suspenseful, like something could jump out at you any minute. And once again, no surprise, it felt like it was inspired by a horror movie. It was great. And of course, I loved Pochita. Like, look at this little goober. Man, he is so cute. He's great. I love him. He's awesome. I think my favorite moment, which is not just my favorite moment of this episode, but is one of my favorite moments of the whole manga, is when Denji holds up Pochita and says, "Make my dreams come true for me." I have always really liked that moment, and they brought it to animation in such a beautiful way. It just can't not be my favorite moment of the episode. Overall, do I think that this episode is the best thing ever? No, not really, but it does give the foundation for it to be a possibility, and for that, it receives my highest praise. Chainsaw Man is awesome, and I can't wait to see what future episodes of the anime have in store. Thanks for watching. I plan on doing these for each Chainsaw Man episode, so if you enjoyed the video, consider hitting subscribe. Let me know if I missed anything, or if you're excited for any of the episodes to come, or what you had for breakfast today. I don't know, just type it out. If you're interested in more manga and anime content, consider checking out the Manga Monday show, where you can find podcasts and games hosted by me and my friend Edgar. All the links in the description below. See you next week.